what you don't want to see again is where, the vultures are out. We don't want to be coming on here every day and taking layup pot shots at the team.
No
But
way,
today, there was a scenario where down at the pregame skate, they're in Jersey tonight, Berube was asked about whether or not they're going to have any roster management decisions. In other words, guys that are going to be traded, you're not going to play them tonight because you don't want them to get hurt. And 4 hours ago, give or take, he said, no, everyone's playing. And then 4 hours later, Ekman-Larsson, McMann, and Laughton aren't playing tonight.
Yeah, no kidding.
So how do you have a disconnect? Like maybe something crazy happened on all three fronts in 3 or 4 hours. Is it possible?
It's a possibility.
It's possible. It seems unlikely, but it's possible. But these are the kind of things you open yourself up to if you're not all on the same page, or the perception that you're not all on the same page, that the coaches in Jersey saying, no, I'm playing. Like, we're trying to win, and to my knowledge, I got no reason to pull any of these guys. And obviously a call came in a few hours later and said, pull these 3 guys, which means they're getting traded, which means they're not playing tomorrow either, right? You can't Ekman-Larsson, Laughton, McMann are being traded. That is what is being announced.
The same thing as the injuries building up, and then they cheaped out on that guy, the injury prevention guy. It's like, what?
Right.
What did that need to have? Like, what?
Well, just think about that for a second. They could sit out tomorrow night, but we're not going to do that tonight. What the hell's the difference? It's a back-to-back. The 2 games are essentially clumped together. Like, what if guys are going to sit out on a Thursday, why can't they sit out on a Wednesday?
Right, that's why you do it.
That makes no sense.
Exactly. Like, pull them. Like, obviously, the Treliving's moving down the road of trading all 3 guys. I don't think anyone's surprised McMann and Laughton are going to be dealt because they're UFAs. The Ekman-Larsson trade is where I think your eyes start to pop and think you better get something pretty significant for him, right? Like, you got to be reasonable. It's not going to be crazy. But I look at Carlo last year. I know Ekman-Larsson's older, but he's a winner. He plays with physicality. He puts up numbers. He's got a big shot. He can be a second power play guy. He's got 2 years left at $3.5 million. If you had to pay Fraser Minten and a first for Carlo, how much off
there,
that?
Don't go there, pal.
How much off should it be, though? How much different should it be for Ekman-Larsson with the same amount of term? Maybe they got to eat some money like the Bruins did for Carlo.
Connor Murphy just went for a second-round pick. I don't know what avenue you're going down.
Because Tyler Myers went for a second and a fourth, and Vancouver had to eat 50%.
Right. But I think Ekman-Larsson's better than both those guys.
But that's a pretty good return for Tyler Myers, is it not? But, I don't know. That doesn't mean that Oliver Ekman-Larsson automatically fetches you a first. In a perfect world, sure, that's great. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not getting my hopes up for a first-round pick coming back.
From any of these guys? Like, there's no package out there? I mean, Kiefer Sherwood just signed a 5-year deal at $5.75 per in San Jose. They gave up 2 second-rounders to get him.
Right.
And you can pick your poison who you like.
That guy's
more.
a pretty good player.
I agree. He's aggressive. He can score a little bit. McMann, aggressive, can score a little bit, can skate. I don't know. I don't know if that would appear to me to be a benchmark on what he's probably asking for. It sounds like it. 5 years, $5 million. I don't know if he'll get it. Maybe he gets a little bit less. But I think that's ultimately what needs to be expected. This is the thing. You can't let a GM off the hook. When he went out and just paid, there's other teams out there that are looking for pieces. There are other teams that they have tunnel vision right now. They want to win a Stanley Cup. They believe they can.
But Brian,
you got to lean on those teams.
You're not going to go to other GMs and say, "Well, this is what I paid for that guy."
No,
so
I'm not saying that. But if that's the barometer that's out there, are the expectations so low with Treliving and or the players that you don't expect the Leafs to get a good haul for these guys? Like Laughton, he paid a first in Gulbenkian this time last year. That's another thing hanging over this team. Boston's got their pick this year. Philly's got their pick next year. Now, there's protection on that, but if I get it. It's a year later, no term, UFA. They've played themselves into a different position. I'm talking about the players. But this is where you have to have expectations for your GM. Brad Treliving's got to hit a grand slam. Has to.
And
you
then
got to
I guess
win the next few
is,
days. You have to.
when you see what's going on where, like O talked about, there's the sports science guy, then they don't know what they're doing with Easton Cowan because they played him too many games before the Olympic break, so he couldn't go down and play games for the Marlies. Then they don't play him for the first two. And then it's like the coach and the GM aren't on the same page as far as are the guys who are valuable trade assets going to play or not going to play. Like, you start to look at the track record and you're like, how much confidence can you honestly have that there's this polished plan that's going to, restock the cupboards here with your assets? I don't know.
Yeah,
it feels more reactive than proactive.
Yep, and I guess that's that's what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here suggesting I have the highest expectations, but I'm saying collectively that should be the expectation, right? Like, your expectation should be that the GM is going to win some trades.
Yeah.
Last year he lost two. Well, okay. Now now you're on the other side of it, and those teams they put the screws to the Leafs last minute. You want this guy? This is what you got to pay, right? Like,
but Hayes, you have to look at this. Look at it from a different perspective. If this was the New Jersey Devils that were looking to try to unload Scott Laughton, Bobby McMann, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and whoever else, you'd be looking at that scenario. All three of us would be, and we'd be like, good luck with that. Good luck getting a return on that. And now we're looking at it because it's in our back door, and we're saying, you better hit a home run here. The thing is, I agree with the home run analysis, but I don't know if it's available.
It may not be.
I do not know if it's available to hit a home run with what you're trying to move and what you're ultimately looking to get back. I don't know if a home run at this deadline, however they want to reshape this thing, is available, which is a shame, but it's a reality.
It may be. It may be. Now, they've made a conclusion. They're trading these guys. You don't pull them from the lineup for 2 games and then keep them. I guess it's possible, but that would be amateur hour and look horrible, right? Like, if you get to Friday at 3 and say, no, they're going back in the lineup tomorrow night, Tampa's in town, that is a horrible look, which would suggest they feel like there's a market for these 3 guys, or they know there's a market, and they're going to be willing to pounce on one of the offers that are out there. I would have to believe. I look at Ekman-Larsson. Every year you need defensemen. You need winner. He's a big veteran winning defenseman with term on his deal. He never gets hurt, right? Like, I think he's a good player. So I hear you, but if you think you're going to take a second-round pick for that, what's the point?
No.
Wait until keep him then. Like, honestly, he's got 2 years left on his deal. You trade him in the summer. Like, that's my point with Ekman. Like, McMann and Laughton are different. They're if you're not going to pay them, they're walking. You basically have to take what you can get. Put your stake in the ground, try to get as much as you can. Ekman-Larsson is not a scenario where you have to trade him. You have 2 years left. Trade him in the summer. Trade him next year at the deadline if you want to.
And Hayes, the whole point
Make
of trading
sure you
Ekman,
get a great price. If you don't, it's on you.
That's the thing. The whole point of trading Ekman-Larsson for this trade deadline is that you realize he's been their best defenseman. He's won Stanley Cups. He plays with that little bit of edge that teams would want, and he's got the term. Yeah. So if you're doing it, you're like, I'm going to cash in. I'm going to cash in because I realize that next year we could roll into training camp and it might not look the same for that player.
Exactly.
And we don't want to take that risk. So
That's
we're going to cash in our chips now.
Precisely the way you do it. And again, you guys haven't answered me. How is this different from Carlo getting a first in Minton, but the Leafs, it's like, it may not be out there.
Because Carlo's 27 and Oliver Ekman-Larsson, what is Carlo, 28, 29?
28, yeah.
Sure, and OEL's 35. I think that's your differentiator.
I don't think he's a better player.
No, God, no. But I think if you were looking last year, if you were, Bryan Hayes was the Toronto Maple Leafs, Jeff and I were the Team B, and we were trying to decide on Brandon Carlo and bringing him in, we probably thought that, okay, this guy's going to have 5 more quality years left of him. So we bring him in, he's got term, maybe we'll re-sign him after that. Where with OEL, he's not a rental, but you're also thinking the runway might not be as long as a guy who's in his late 20s.
That's reasonable, and that's a totally reasonable case to be made. But again, I'm not saying it's going to be the equivalent of Minton in a first, but if it's a second and a third and a middling prospect, to me that doesn't make a ton of sense.